Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Fireplace podcast. I'm Andy and this is my friend Mike.
Hi, this is Mike. Thanks, Andy. We're going to talk today about what this podcast is for and a little bit about what you can expect to hear from it.
So, first up, our first bullet point on our list to cover this episode is what is the goal of this podcast? Would you like to start, Mike?
Yes, so the idea of this podcast is for me and Andy to chat through some topics around financial independence and retiring early and do it in more of a friendly way and to give people another channel to hear about fire topics um, that they might be interested in.
Yeah, I see it as coming down the pub with us where we share a pint and chew over subjects. But I think doing that in a bit of a magazine format works for me. But we're going to talk about that later on, aren't we? I think there are a lot of people who can learn by reading an article or reading a book, and that's great. But there are other people that will struggle with that, and there are some ideas which are probably better conveyed by listening to people chat through the subject.
Yeah, I agree with that. Um, and the next question we had was how this fits into the fireplace community. So we have this podcast, and we also have a Facebook group, and we also have a wiki, which is a website a little bit like Wikipedia. And we also run events like meetups and some weekend events where people can meet and discuss topics from the group. Um, so the idea, as I see it, is that this gives, as we said earlier, a kind of more chatty atmosphere where we can go through some topics, maybe get some guests on, maybe answer some readers' questions and those kind of things.
I also see it as plugging into people's different availability. There are going to be people who have a half hour commute in the morning and listen to a podcast, and this suits them as a good use of their time. That they wouldn't necessarily sit down and read a new article that we published.
Yeah, I agree to that. So the next question we had was what we each bring to the party, and we thought it would be fun if we each answer for the other person on this. So if I start, I think from my point of view, Andy brings a lot to this party, and you've obviously been involved in the fire community for a while in various groups and things. And I think your forte in this is from a more sales background, that you're very good at talking to people, you're good at chatting to people, and I think particularly when it comes to events and things, you're very strong at organizing that and bringing people together.
Well, thank you very much. I think one of my biggest failings is I'm a bit slapdash. I shoot from the hip and I'm not always as thorough as I could be. So I see the big gain of having you on board as you're the detail person. If I may say, yeah, let's do this, invest in this, you will actually go through and look in the background and figure out what are the ramifications of this, what are the pitfalls. So that thorough detail person, I think, has immense value for me. It makes me a whole lot better at this, having you along.
Thanks. I think that's I think it's very good having two of us because I think we can provide different views on things and we don't always agree, which I think is quite natural and quite good. But I think that having two people makes it a bit more interesting for the listener.
Yes, and I think we do differ in our investment approaches as well. So it's good to have that challenge of each other testing our ideas on one another. But it's not going to be just limited to us two either, is it? We're going to have guests along for different viewpoints.
Yes, that's our next topic was to talk about what sort of ideas we have for future episodes. And I think the idea is we'll be covering some of the fire topics in a bit more detail, but still in a friendly way, and also extending it further with things like having guests on we can chat to, and incorporating and answering questions that people have given us either through this channel or through one of the other channels in the Fireplace community.
Yes, this is probably a good time to point out that neither of us are seasoned professionals at this. We're just winging it and seeing what works. I think the idea at the moment is to run with a magazine format where we have different segments in each episode, which could be a guest, it could be responding to listeners' questions and answers. It could be us talking about a topic or something in the news. So hopefully that keeps things short and snappy and interesting rather than, oh no, it's a whole half hour on inheritance tax.
Yes, exactly. I think my plan for this would be that we talk about the fire topics, but we don't take ourselves too seriously. And it's all part of the community, which I think is more important than everyone necessarily learning every last detail about finance. I think one of the things where we're different is that the events we have in the group, particularly, bring people together in the real world so that while we've got a smaller group, the idea or the hope is that a lot of people in the group will have actually met each other in the real world. And if people who listen to this podcast can then maybe join the Facebook group later and come along to some events, then that brings it all a bit more into the real world for people.
Yes, I think there's a lot of value in having a bunch of friends who are also investors and on the same path as you. Um, for the general participant, there's a value of having a circle of people around in sort of being able to test these ideas. But particularly for us, I'm consciously aware we're I'm acutely aware, I should say, we're not professionals. We are merely investors who've probably been doing this a little bit longer than some of the other folk.
No,
So
I agree. I think that's a very important point, and we're not offering any kind of professional advice. What we're offering is a safe space to talk about some of these things and to give some examples of where things have gone well and some examples perhaps where people have made mistakes. And hopefully over time, we can aim to help a lot of people to get their finances in order and maybe some of them to retire early and get on with enjoying their lives.
but having those people around for also helps us as a way of testing our ideas. If I in particular say something stupid, I can rely on there's a whole bunch of people that are going to be ready to say, Andy, you've screwed that up. Can we just change that a little bit?
Yeah.
And that hopefully keeps us all on track.
I like the quote you gave before about what was it?
Or
Your the five
the five
people.
people you
Yeah,
spend the most time with.
yeah. And I think if people can get a chance to spend a weekend with five other people who are in a similar position to them, where they're looking at how to sort out their family finances and they'd like a bit more free time and they'd like to retire early and maybe they've got other plans. I think that all gets a lot more real when you can spend some time with real people talking about it.
Yes, to give the context of this, this was me remembering. We had a gathering in Keswick last October, and of the people that came along, one guy said the reason he'd come was he'd read about a concept of you become an amalgam of the five people you spend the most time with, and that you should overtly look for that influence. So he was saying this is what I want to become, this community of people who are striving for financial independence. Therefore, I'm going to spend time with these people and see what rubs off. And I thought that was a wonderful idea, and I've adopted it in various ways.
Yeah, I think that's very true. And I think the Keswick example was a very good one of an event that went really well. We had a lot of fun. People had a lot of, as well as just talking about all the boring finance stuff, it was a chance for people to talk about their lives and put it all in context, which I think is very important. There's a lot you can learn about interest and accounts and tax and all that kind of thing. But ultimately, it's about being in the right mindset and getting your head in the right space and treating yourself as generously and investing for your future.
Yes, it's about people's lives and helping them do what's their vision of their best life. So what's our vision for the subsequent episodes of this? We've talked about the next one being a covering the basics. So we're aware that we're going to have a mixture of audience here. We're going to have people that know their onions already and want some hand holding along the way. But we are likely to get some people that don't know anything about personal finance and
Yes.
who want to. Sorry.
No, I think the next episode we'll run through quite without going into too much detail, we'll run through the main concepts of the FIRE movement and what it's all about, which is in essence to try and get your finances under control and get to the point where you're not working for money, where your money is working for you. Um,
So if people already know the ropes, then they could technically skip that next episode, except for the fact that it's an opportunity to come and hang out with us and hear our lovely voices.
exactly. Yes. And then
Very good.
after each episode, we'll be asking for any questions. So if anyone does have any questions on this episode, they're free to leave them in the comments, and we'll try and address them either in the next episode or in a future episode.
Very good. Have we covered everything we intended on this one?
I think so. I think for this one we keep it nice and short, and we see if we get any comments, and we get preparing for the next one.
Very good. Well, thanks for listening, folks. We'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks very much. Talk to you soon. Bye.